All right, hello students. Today we're going to talk about dividing decimals. Yesterday we talked about dividing decimals to a whole number. Today we're going to talk about dividing a decimal to a decimal. Well, when we divide a decimal to a decimal, there's a couple new steps we have to add. Step one is the same. We always want to move the problem into a division house. This makes it easier to work with um, when we're talking about division. Step two and step three are our new steps. First, step two, we need to move the decimal to the far right of the outside number. We can't have that decimal on the divisor or the outside number. It has to be moved over to the far right. Well, because we make that change on the outside number, we have to do the same thing to the inside number. So move the decimal the same number of times to the inside number or to the dividend. This makes sure we're changing both numbers kind of equally. As we move the decimal to the outside, on the outside number, we're changing it to a whole number. So that means we have to change the value or change the number on the inside. Once you do those two steps, step 4 and step 5 are the same. We're going to divide like normal, and then we're going to bring the decimal point straight up. So let's go and look at a couple of examples. Go and put those steps into action. So here we go. Here's our first problem. We have 0.76 divided by 0.4. So once again, both of them are decimals now, so let's go ahead and make our division house. Remember, the first number goes on the inside, 0.76. The second number goes on the outside, 0.4. Okay, so that's a step one. We took the problem, we put it into a division house. Step two, now we're going to move the decimal to the far right of the outside number. So here's the outside number, or divisor. This decimal point needs to be moved over. So let's go ahead and take a moment. Let's go ahead and move this over. We move this over once. That means we have to move step two. Step three says move the decimal the same number of times to the inside number. So we move this over once. That means we have to move over the inside number once as well. So there we go, moved it over. Now we can clean this up. I have to take the eraser, clean up the old decimal and the lines, clean up the old decimal and the lines, because now all we have is 4. This is a whole number of 4 going into 7.6. So let's go ahead and do the division. So 4 can't go into 0, so we can put an X there. 4 can go into 7, once. So let's go ahead and put it there. 4 minus 7 is 3. Bring down the 6. How many times does 4 go into 36? I believe that's 9 times. And 4 times 9 is 36. And just like last time, we need this last part down here to be a 0. Okay, so we did step 4, we divided like normal. Step 5, we're going to bring up the decimal point. So here's our decimal point. We're just going to bring it straight up into the quotient. So our answer here is 1.9. All right, so that's dividing decimals. Let's go ahead and look at another example. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to erase this 0 part up here. You don't need to do that. Just want to give myself plenty of room. So here we go. Now we're going to divide. Well, now we have a whole number being divided by a decimal. We have 36 divided by 0.5. Well, the steps are the same. So let's go ahead and make our division house. The first number goes on the inside, 36. The second number goes on the outside. All right, so we have 0.5 going into 36. Well, that's step 1. We put it into a division house. Step 2 says I have to move this outside decimal. I have to move it over to the inside or to the far right. It's as far as it went, so we're good to go. Well, now I also have to move the inside decimal. That's step 3. Well, there is no inside decimal, at least it's not there. Now, for all whole numbers, there is a decimal. The decimal point is always on the far right. So the decimal point is right here. Our whole numbers are to the left of the decimal, so that means I have to move this over once. Well, there's nothing to move it over, so I must put a 0 there, the place value holder. So let's go ahead and erase the old decimals and the lines just to clean it up for you. You can leave them there if you want, no big deal. I'm just doing that to clean it up. Let's go ahead and extend the house over a little bit. Now let's go ahead and do the division. Remember, this is 5. This 0, the tens place, there's nothing there, so we actually could erase that too. This is not necessary because it's not between two numbers or a decimal point and a number. And now we can go ahead and do the division. Well, 5 cannot go into 3. 5 can go into 36 7 times. We get 35. I do the subtraction. I get 1. I bring down the 0, and I look, how many times can 5 go into 10? 5 goes into 10 twice. And of course, 5 times 2 is 10. Do the subtraction, of course, we get that 0. We can bring up the decimal, but as you can see, the decimal point is on the far right side. That makes this just simply a whole number. 72 is just simply a whole number. There's nothing to the right of the decimal. We can leave the decimal there if you want, no big deal. 72, or 72. Decimal point can be there, perfectly fine. And here is your answer. All right, so go ahead and stop the video. Go ahead and look at the second video to go over one more example, and then we'll go over, you have your on your owns. All right, hello students. Let's go ahead and finish up our lesson on dividing decimals. Let's do one more example together, and then you have a couple on your own. So if you look at example 3, it's a little bit more challenging, a lot more decimal work, but the process is the same. It's still the same step by step. So let's look at the first number 3, excuse me. 0.222 divided by 0.06. So step 1, let's go ahead and put or make our division house. I want to make it underneath here because I'm not going to erase this time. I'm going to rewrite. So kind of another way of doing this to kind of clean it up. So let's go ahead and put the first number on the inside, 0.22 and 2. And then on the outside goes the 0.06. 0.06. So that's step 1. So we took the problem, we wrote it into a division house. Step 2 says I have to move the decimal point over on the outside number. So I have to move this decimal point to the far right. Remember, we have to count how many digits we're moving it over. We're going to move it over once, we're going to move it over twice. So let's go ahead and do it with the red pin. So here's our decimal point. We're going to move it over once, then we're going to move it over twice, and then go ahead and put the decimal point there. Since we moved it over twice in our divisor or our outside number, we have to do the same thing to the dividend or the inside number. We move it over once, move it over twice. Go ahead and place your decimal point. Well, now instead of erasing, I'm just simply going to rewrite the problem. I'm going to clean it up by rewriting, another way of doing it. And the outside number, well, the decimal point's here. So I have 0, 6, and then the new decimal point's on the far right. On the inside number, I have 0, 2, 2, and 2, and the decimal point is between the last two 2's. So this is kind of our new problem. Well, if we look at, we have these zeros that are on the outside. We don't need them, so we can simply erase them and get rid of them if you'd like. It kind of makes the problem look a little nicer. You don't have to do that. You can always keep the zeros there. But it makes it look a little nicer. Okay, like these zeros are not necessary because they're not between two numbers or between a number and a decimal. So now we can go ahead and do the division. Okay, we have a whole number 6. How many times can 6 go into 2? It can't. But how many times can 6 go into 22? I believe that's 3 times, because 3 times 6, I believe, is 18. We do the subtraction. 2 minus 8 we can't do, so we have to borrow. So let's go ahead and cross it out, put a 1, make this 12. 12 minus 8 is 4. Go ahead and bring down the 2. Excuse me. And then we ask ourselves, how many times can 6 go into 42? That would be 7. 7 times 6 is 42. Do the subtraction, and of course, that gives us our 0. And that's what we're looking for. We need that 0 down at the very bottom. Well, our last step, we divide like normal, is to bring up the decimal point. Well, there's a decimal point. Let's go and bring it straight up. So our final answer is 3.7. Not the prettiest looking 3, but there it is, 3.7. All right, now it's your turn to give a couple of tries on your own. So here are the 2 problems you're going to do. Go ahead and pause the video like normal. Go ahead and give them a try and come back and check your answers with me. So go ahead and pause the video at this time and go ahead and work them out. All right, students, welcome back. Let's go ahead and go over the answers. For problem 4, the answer should be 15.5. Hopefully you moved that decimal point over 1. And for number 5, the answer should be 360. If you have the decimal point over here, nothing wrong with that. That's exactly the same thing. All right, so if you didn't get both of these answers correct, please raise your hand so I can come by and help you out just to make sure you get started off on the right direction. All right, you're ready to go ahead and start with your assignment.